York United is alive. York United, the team that's been in the most fluctuation since the start of the Canadian Premier League, has been bought by Mexican Game Plan Sports Group. This is big news because obviously at the beginning of the 2023 season, the previous York United owners sold the team back to the Canadian soccer business, and for basically the past 9 months, York United has been sitting there ownerless, and everyone kind of knew that if the team didn't find an owner, they probably would not be returning to the Canadian Premier League next season. And the waiting has paid off as York United today officially announced that they had a new ownership group. Game Plan Sports Group is run by 3 brothers from Mexico, the Pascal brothers, that have strong ties to Mexican soccer and Liga MX. I believe they have an uncle who was a president of Club America at one point. They have familial connections to Monterrey. Their family is well entwined with Mexican soccer, and they are now buying York United FC. And it's not like they're just buying York United FC and just letting it sit there. They are moving to Toronto specifically for this. Moving to Toronto specifically to run York United. This is basically what they are setting out to do and what is going to occupy the majority of their time going forward. And that is all very hopeful because this seems like an ownership group that really cares about this team and really wants this team to survive. So first we'll talk about the positives of this deal, then we'll talk about some of the less positives, or things that aren't as clear cut as of yet. Positives: ownership that's moved to Toronto to run this team full time. That is very positive. The fact that they're moving to Toronto means that they're not planning on relocating this team away from the GTA. They want this team to be in the GTA. And I think the league wants the team to be in the GTA. And the league supposedly had multiple bids for York United, and they chose the Pascal brothers as the best one. So obviously this is who Mark Noonan thinks is the best for making York United successful in the Greater Toronto area. So you have an ownership group that's committed and looks like they really want this team to succeed in the GTA, which is a massive positive. I think a strong ownership is exactly what York United needs. A passionate ownership is exactly what York United needs. And an ownership with a plan is exactly what York United needs. They already have some very good players signed on for next season. So with ownership that is committed to make this team a contender, York United, as soon as next season, could be a legitimate contender in the Canadian Premier League. And of course, with the Mexican connections, there's possibility for the team to have training camps in Mexico, kind of like how Atletico Ottawa has training camps in Spain. A potential for players from Liga MX to get loaned into the club. These guys, they don't own a team in Mexico, but they have connections down there that could be used to facilitate and make things happen for York United. But now, the big glaring question mark for York United, that has been the big glaring question mark since day one: the stadium. In the press release, it was announced that the Pascal brothers said they were going to keep York United at York Lions Stadium for the 2024 season while they research potential new venues for the team. And also as part of that, they said the 8,000 seat Woodbine Stadium complex was still in the realm of possibility. And that just kind of leaves York United with the biggest problem it's had since day one: is where is this team gonna play? To rally people around the new ownership group when you still don't have an answer to that question of where is this team gonna settle down long term is still a tough ask. York Lions Stadium is not an ideal location for the team, and basically from day one, York Lions Stadium has been a temporary home for York United. Like, from day one, we were talking about, okay, York United is gonna play one season at York Lions Stadium and then they're gone. And now I am slightly worried that it's just same old song and dance. Like, that's what the first ownership group did. The first ownership group said, season 1 we're going to be at York Lions Stadium, and then for season 2 we're going to have somewhere else to play. And now new ownership groups come in and they're saying, season 1 we're going to be at York Lions Stadium, and hopefully for season 2 we'll have found somewhere else to play. Now obviously if an ownership group that doesn't have roots to the area, coming in and immediately having a new stadium wasn't going to happen. But getting new stadiums and finding new locations to play is easier said than done. They might get here, they might look into it, and they might say, screw it, we're staying at York. That could work. It's on the subway line. There's people who live nearby, but I think it's not the ideal location for this team. Obviously, the Woodbine deal is still in the works, but that's just a weird area to get to. No real good transit to that area, and that would have to be a whole new stadium that got built. Would probably keep York at York Lions Stadium for at least 3 more years. I've always been a big fan of moving York United to Varsity Stadium, but that would also have to mean that you'd have to make deals with the University of Toronto and do some massive renovations to Varsity Stadium. them. So that's just a very hard thing to do. I think that would be the best place for them to play, but it's a very difficult project. But in the end, with the new owners, the problem is still the same as the one that the old owners have. Where do you put the team? Where does the team play? Now, I have full faith in this ownership group to really care about this team and want to build a contender. And I think step one is making a team that is legitimately competitive. That's the problem York United has had, is they've had some teams that have been on the brink of being competitive in the Canadian Premier League, but they've never truly been competitive in the Canadian Premier League. And it's kind of hard to rally a fan base around a team that's like fluctuating between bottom and mid-table. But even if they get that without a nice stadium in a nice location, it's going to be hard for them to break 2,500 3,000 people a game. So it all comes down to the stadium bit. But this is an ownership group that looks committed. They're moving to Toronto for this. They are in it for the long haul. If any foreign ownership group can get it done, I'm convinced it's these guys. So York United, from the brink of collapse, is still alive and living and chugging along in the Canadian Premier League. We stay at 8 teams for next season, barring any surprise announcements. Keeping York United around is massive. Having a team in Toronto is massive. Just great for a selling point for the league overall. So that does it for this video. As always, if you'd like to hit like if you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.